Hello everyone, this is Lying Vigor, and tonight we're playing Silent Hill 3 once again. Notice the game is... oh, well, I'm gonna go inside the hospital actually. And immediately we'll hear panting and squishy noises, which is because there's a new enemy here. So I'm thinking the hospital is going to comprise of 2 episodes, which will be this first one and then one that's mostly the other world plus a boss fight. And a cutscene. But anyways, so we're inside the... whoa! We're inside the hospital now. And you'll notice, like in most Silent Hill games, there's a nurse here, a nurse enemy. And these aren't just reused, like a lot of horror games would probably do, but are in fact custom designed for this game. So I just wanted to mention before I do much, I'm killing them to make the music go away, but I just want to mention that it's pretty late night here again. It's 1 a.m. and like I said before, I usually record these either about 10 in the morning if I'm awake, or about 5 or 6 p.m. But last time I recorded at night, it was actually a lot of fun because, you know, it's relaxing and I'm already kind of tired, so you know, it makes for a very comfy and chill episode or two. And also it's just fun to, I can more fully focus on the horror of the game and get even a bit spooked myself, because, again, these games are pretty random with some of the scares. So anyways, let's talk about these new nurses. Now, they don't have a special name like the Silent Hill 1 nurse who's called Puppet Nurse. They're just called nurses. And in Silent Hill 2, they're called Bubblehead Nurses. And speaking of Silent Hill 2, you'll notice this is in fact Blookhaven Hospital, the hospital you visit in Silent Hill 2. But don't worry, it's all full of new areas, new things. It's reused only in architecture only, and even then, a lot of the rooms are, I mean, only in some of the hallways are even they revisited, and the other world is completely different. You know, it's definitely not a lazy thing. Let's see if we can go out the door. I haven't found Leonard yet. No idea if there's any point to it or not, but I'll try looking anyways. So Leonard is of course the guy we were told to find by Douglas, because Vincent told him that we should go to the hospital and look for Leonard. So he should be here somewhere. But I said that we'll talk about the nurses, so let's do that. So these are just called nurses. And again, most of the enemies in this game, or all of them, are based on, you know, Alessa's psyche, and basically, again, the other world, the Alessa psyche, all the monsters, they come from her psyche. So these nurses are generally thought to be a slightly different kind of nurse from the puppet nurses in Silent Hill 1, who were the kind of uncaring nurses who were, you know, called puppets because the cult would control them and they wouldn't show any affection towards Alessa when she was stuck in the hospital. If you'll remember, she was stuck in the basement with basically permanent bleeding and oozing burns and everything. And because the cult would control them, they'd pump her full of drugs and not really care much for her, just make sure she wasn't dying. And because of that, because of the cult's control, she saw the doctors and the nurses as puppets, of course. And even there was a parasite that would kind of take control of them, and you could see it arching out of their back. And in this game, the nurse is more fully based on Alessa's interpretation of nurses from Lisa Garland, who was the one really nice nurse who would take care of her when she was oozing, and who was basically in charge and locked in the basement with her to make sure, after the big burning event where her house was burned down with her inside of it because of a cult ritual. And she only didn't die because of the cult magic and her psychic powers. But anyways, so these nurses are more based on Lisa Garland, which you can tell because they're just, you know, they're not as horribly deformed puppet nurses. They're just slightly odd and different. And this is actually a really good camera angle. You can see in their upper back, it's a lot bloodier and stained, which is just like the puppet nurse, how they had it in their upper back. They would have a parasite and a lot of blood there. So it makes sense, you know, it goes with it pretty well. It's sort of a hinting at that, a reference to that parasite and the puppet nurse, but it's not fully the same kind of puppet parasite thing going on. It's more of just a nurse themed common enemy, and there are a few different variations. They vary very little in appearance, if any. I can't even remember if they do. I don't think so. But some have different weapons. One has a revolver, some have pipes, and so on. But anyways, the most interesting thing about this nurse is what I'll touch on now, which is that, well, there's actually two things. One is that they look very Asian for some reason, which you can kind of tell from this picture, and two, they have a little red square around their mouth, which is very odd. It's like a red tinted square around their mouth, and you'll see in this screenshot here, when asked about it, Masahiro Ito describes that it represents madness and anger, basically. Alessa's anger with her situation and all that, and basically a lot of the red themes represent anger, not just like, ooh, horror blood, but it represents Alessa's internal anger at her abuse and at the cult's abuse of her and burning her and all the terrible things that have happened to her. And that's what the mouth represents. Also, the fact that it's red represents her screaming pain, the pain that comes out of her mouth when she would scream. And similarly, I'll show you this picture here. The bubblehead nurses in Silent Hill 2, if you look very closely, have kind of a weird horrific red square around their mouth, although it looks to be more of a mouth itself than just a red square around the mouth. But just worth noting, and apparently that mouth is representative of Mary's cries of pain and insanity towards the end of her days, which is not a spoiler for Silent Hill 2 if you haven't played it yourself or seen me play it. That's the basis of the entire game, is that Mary was terminally ill, so don't worry, it's not a spoiler. Anyways, let's explore the hospital a little bit. I'm going to turn up my sound just a little so we can get a good I figured out that if I turn up my sound or turn it down, it only affects my headset and not what I record. So if the game's ever too quiet, I'll turn it up in post. In post, that sounds so professional. That's stupid. Sorry. But when I edit it, that's what I do for all the cutscenes, because I realized some were kind of quiet in Silent Hill 2. No, Silent Hill 1, excuse me. So we're gonna pick up this health drink. There are a bunch of different types of medicine, but none of it looks useful. I guess I should just leave it all alone. So this is a little reception lobby office that's in Silent Hill 2 as well. Nothing of interest on the floor or the shelf. Yeah, just some books, nothing exciting. And I'll see over here there's a little grate and a huge, probably the most obviously glowing and bright symbol in the entire game. I actually really like this glow. It's pretty cool. I'll turn the light back on and let's save here. Hospital office. Cool. So we did miss this when we walked in here, which is the big map of the hospital. And that reminds me, I just wanted to mention that when we're outside in Silent Hill 2, the Blookhaven Hospital was never marked on the map. It was just kind of there, and the game leads you there, but it was never marked on the map. In this game, it does mention that it's there. They modified it slightly. Let's look around. Computer, nothing of use. And there's a sign here. Can't read it, but this is in Silent Hill 2, this little first aid sign, and it says, "Gonna beach in the sea," which most fans agree is some sort of odd translation error. Maybe it's meant to, something nice about, relaxing vacation, or maybe, who knows, but this is an odd little translation error. Can't go in here, which is where we would get the purple bulky in Silent Hill 2. So already off the bat, the architecture of the hospital is a little bit different. This is the director's room in Silent Hill 2. We can't go in there. In fact, I don't think we can go in most of these doors. And let's check this one. We can go inside. Cool, cool. And right here is some whiteboard. There's stuff written on the whiteboard, but none of it really matters to me. So in Silent Hill 2, if you came in here and read this whiteboard after you got the key for this room, which is called the doctor's lounge, I guess, you could see that it says 7335, which is the code for the upstairs door, but I don't think that keypad code is in this game. So there are some notes there we're going to check out, but first let's make sure we're not missing anything else in here. This room actually has one of my favorite things. Not favorite things in the entire world, but just a really funny, subtle, odd thing. So let's read these notes before I show it to you. It's a medical record or something. It's for this Leonard guy. Could this be the same Leonard that Vincent was talking about? Room S12. Presenting mild audio-visual hallucinations, emotional instability, obsessive ideas. Suspect mild schizophrenia. Will continue observation. Basically calm and cooperative with a strong sense of justice. However, according to reports, becomes very violent when overexcited. The other one is for Stanley Coleman. Room S07. Usually passive and cowardly, also egotistical. Sometimes shows and acts on obsessive attachment to a particular woman. This has caused violent incidents. Use caution. So, 2 notes for people. One is Leonard, and one is a man named Stanley Coleman, who we will soon become acquainted with. So this is the thing I was talking about that I find really charming, which is this little fridge here. You can interact. There's a memo posted on the refrigerator. Food only. Do not store drugs. I wonder if it's okay to store health drinks in here. And we check the fridge and we get a health drink. And I just think it's funny because this fridge kind of, what Heather has to say about it confirms that health drinks are not in fact just some, in-universe, they're not some, it's just, health drink is not a name for a drink in their universe. It's not a name for like I'm sorry, I'm trying to figure out how to say this. It's so late, I'm so tired. Sorry, let me take off my jacket. Ugh. Pretty warm in here. So, yeah. What I mean is that it's not a name that the game gives you for an energy drink or, some kind of drink that would otherwise be named in-universe. It's actually the in-universe name is health drink, and that's what people in the universe call it, is just health drink. So I just think it's charming in that way that it kind of confirms that health drinks are just something that are common and exist in the Silent Hill universe. So I'll check the rest of these doors. But, every one of these is locked. There's never been a Silent Hill game where these aren't locked. Because this has only been in... Well, I guess it shows up in the arcade game, so it's been in more than just 2 and 3, but... Check this. Oh, we can go in here. So, I'm going to be very careful in this section of the game. A picture of a flower in a vase. Nice, but whatever. What a cool teenager you are, Heather. It's just a flower pot, nothing special. I don't know what kind of plant it is. So, let's see what room this is. Visiting room. So this room is the first place where we find a journal like this. And I'm going to be very careful when we see journals like this, because if I look at this, well, I'll explain in a minute. Let's just read it. This day has finally come. That's right, the day when you and I will meet. I was always thinking of you here in this gloomy cell. I never even knew your name or face until today. But now I know you're the one I've been waiting for. And haven't you been waiting for me too? That's why you came to rescue me. Oh, how I love you, Heather. I want to give you my prized doll. I made it to commemorate our meeting, the start of this everlasting love. Ah, I can already see your smiling face. Stanley Coleman. So, this fascinates me because when I first played this game, I knew nothing about it, and I played it after I played Silent Hill 2, of course, and I played it and I saw this journal, and I had been kind of back and forth about which game is better, which game's scarier, and, well, I do think that 2 is overall a better experience. Well, maybe not better experience, but better story, and better characters overall, and how everything ties together. But when I saw this, sorry, yawn. When I saw this, I just immediately, I even said it out loud, I was like, this game is scarier than Silent Hill 2. This game is scarier than any game I've ever played because it's not just like outright jump scares, but when you think about it, you come to this hospital in this abandoned town that is, you know, basically empty or full of monsters, and you find this journal that mentions you by name. How I love you, Heather. It's directly speaking to you. Gives me the chills. And there's a doll here. Disgusting. I won't touch that with a 10-foot pole. So let me show you what I was trying to say before I read the journal, which is we leave and we come back, and the journal and the doll are gone, which is, again, very creepy, but it's also why I have to be careful to read every journal and not leave an area before I interact with it, because there are some areas where it's somewhere that you might not see right away, and I don't want to accidentally leave the room and make it disappear before I can read it for you, so. Anyways. Don't worry, I'll stop yawning soon. So we're gonna kill these nurses. Just mowing them down. Let's kick the hell out of this one. Okay. You notice there's a weird, constant, almost said moaning, but, you know, heavy breathing that the nurses do. Why that is, nobody really knows or, you know, understands why it is. I'm really not sure. I don't even... I personally don't even have a theory. You know, I think about it a lot. I'm like, well, let's think about Lisa. Was she ever, you know, heavy breathing, anything like that? And can't think of anything. So what it is, I think it's just a creepy thing, you know. Lock is broken. Can't open this room. I don't know if you heard that, but the combat in these games is fantastic. I don't know if you heard that, but there's a loud roaring noise or something coming from the window over here. When I first walk in the room, it's hard to tell because of all the enemy noise and the music, but if you go back, I'm sure you'll hear there's a loud animal growl. That is very strange. But there's nothing in here. Just a trap room. There are a few of those in the Silent Hill games. Rooms that you can go in and there's nothing in them except enemies. Let's just make sure we check everywhere. And over here there's a bed with another journal and a doll. The organization has me shut up in here. They mean to break my will, to make me forget about all that, but I'll stay sane even if they throw me in here with the lunatics. How about if I stick this to the wall? That would be worthless. You can peel it off, can't you? With that junk those nasty wenches won't stop using. If a thing has no meaning, there's no reason for it to exist at all, just as you exist, for me. But why haven't you taken my doll with you? My gift must have embarrassed you. How cute you are, Heather. Stanley Coleman. Just creepy. Let's look... Oops. Let's see if there's anything new. Disgusting, I won't touch that with a 10-foot pole. Nope. But there's a wall over here. There's a lot of things stuck to the wall. A cookie, a toothbrush, a spoon, a Christmas card, a clock. Whatever it was. Probably used glue. But why did they do this in the first place? If we look, we can see some kind of cockroach thing and a bunch of random things, but in the middle there's a key. There's a key glued to the wall. I'd love to take it with me, but it's stuck really tight. I can't even pull it off. So we're gonna have to find something that those nasty wenches used to pry that off the wall, and we'll see what Stanley means by that briefly. But let's run upstairs. It's locked. Well, I guess we're not gonna run up those stairs just yet, but we can use this elevator. which in Silent Hill 2 is out of commission, but not this time. So there's a basement, first floor, second, third. Can't go to the basement yet. We're on the first floor, so let's go up to the second. So we come out of the elevator, and we're in the second floor of the Blookhaven Hospital. Oops, my game accidentally just ran at 60 FPS for a second there. Can't wait to upgrade my computer. So here's one of the areas where it's hard to... Sometimes you'll run by this because, you know, it's hard to see and you'll kind of head further down this hallway and you might miss this. And if you go in a room and come back, you'll miss this diary. But let me show it to you. You may not yet have realized your own... I'm really sorry. Your own true feelings, but you sense them unconsciously, and so you're trying to get closer to me. That's a virtue, a path to paradise. If the door's locked, open it. Use the password for the prison gates. Doctor, I've forgotten his name. Anyway, that quack has it posted. He should be here too. I mean, 4 numbers would have been good enough, but he kept on going. Isn't it a shame I'm not there? Aren't you irritated? I long for you, but you're so cruel. Still, I want you, Heather. Stanley Coleman. So, yeah, creepy stuff. And another doll we're going to ignore. That's the stairway, locked. This, of course, we can't open. What is that on the floor? There's something little on the floor there, but can't pick it up or anything. Can't go in here. Can't go in here. We can go in here. So let's look at this. Jack. Okay. It's a fashion magazine. There's some kind of memo stuck in it. Extra costume password. Touch my heart. So what that is after you beat the game for the first time, it unlocks a password menu where you can input any password. And so this is on an extra New Game Plus playthrough. You play this and you can find some of these throughout the game. So that's what that is. Don't worry about that. What does that mean? It's just an empty can, nothing important. I got a nail polish remover and some perfume. So I never knew what the perfume would do. By the way, this is where we find the shotgun in Silent Hill 2. But I never knew what the perfume would do until I read about it. And apparently what the perfume does... let me show you this. The doll and the book are gone. But the perfume will attract extra enemies and make extra enemies spawn when you enter an area. And I believe the purpose of it is basically because it's really hard to get one of the endings unless you kill almost every single enemy in the game. So if you miss one, you can use this to make up for it, basically. This stuff smells a little strange. We're not going to use or equip it because I don't want to spawn enemies. Or more enemies than we need. Well, we picked up this. This takes off nail polish. I found it in the women's locker room. So... Oh, we didn't read this notebook. We should. But before we do that, let's go back to a more well-lit room. This part is a puzzle that I'm going to ignore for now, because I want to go back downstairs and make sure we do everything in something resembling a grid pattern. So, first floor. Then we're going to go back to that wall, because those nasty wenches, what they've been using is in fact nail polish. So we can use this nail polish to go ahead and rip the key off the wall. And let's use this. And use the nail polish remover. And we got the stairwell key. So that's going to come in handy actually, because we can use that for the stairwell. Of course. And more enemies have spawned, but We're just gonna run in the stairwell anyways. Now, you know what? I don't want to go in the basement. Not yet. I want to go up here and solve that puzzle before we go in the basement, because even though I just said a grid pattern, I'd rather, going in the basement is a waste of time for now, until we have a new item. So let's solve this puzzle first. So, we'll see there's a keypad on the door here, and what it does is, you know, open the door, as most keypads or locks tend to do. There's a typewritten memo posted here. What's this supposed to mean? The first is larger than the second twice the third smaller than the fourth, and the fourth is half the first. 4 of the numbers are not repeated. 3 are not in the top row. 2 are not in the right row. One of the numbers is the final key. So, this puzzle, if it's taking me too long, I'll probably cut it. But I actually, when I speedrun this, I play on easy, and this actually just, it's much easier when you play on easy. So this is actually a puzzle I've only had to do 2 or 3 times, and I can't remember the exact code like I can for Silent Hill 2 with some of these doors. So let me think about this. Again, I'll cut it if it takes too long, but let's try and figure this out. So it says 3 are not in the top row, and 2 are not in the right row. So 2 are not in the right row, which means that 2 are. So 4 of the numbers are not repeated, so none of them are repeated. One of the numbers is the final key. Well, that's obvious. 3 are not in the top row. Okay, so there is 1 number in the top row, 2 in the right row. And the first is larger than the second twice the third smaller than the first, the fourth, and the fourth is half the first. So first larger than the second, right? So second is twice the third, and third is smaller than the fourth, and the fourth is half the first. So let's put in some numbers here to figure this out. The fourth is half the first, and the first is larger than the second. So let's see, let's put in second twice the third, and the first has to be larger than the second. So let's say that 8 is the first number, so larger than the second, and fourth is half the first, so that'd be 4. So fourth is 4, third smaller than the fourth, so it has to be 1, 2, or 3. The second is twice the third, and the first is larger than the second. So, you know what, this puzzle is really tough. I'm gonna actually take out my notebook and I'm gonna reason it out for myself, so I'll cut the video because this will probably take me like 5 minutes. Sorry about that.